Miller. Today we're going to take a look at one of the 193 member states of the United Nations General Assembly and to find out what that particular state is doing to focus on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, to eliminate poverty, to eliminate hunger, to promote sustainable development, and many others. My guest today is an expert in this area. My guest today is His Excellency Ambassador Henry MacDonald. Ambassador MacDonald is the permanent representative of Suriname to the United Nations. Your Excellency, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate you being with me today. We're going to get right into the Sustainable Development Goals, but let's talk a little bit about Suriname. Suriname is one of the three countries in what you mentioned a minute ago, the shield of South America. South America, we'll get there. But tell us a little bit about Suriname. How large is it population-wise? How many square miles, square kilometers, more or less, that type of thing?
Suriname is, in fact, the smallest independent nation of South America. We are in the north of the continent. We speak Dutch, of course, one of the few Dutch-speaking countries in the world. The country size is around 160,000 square miles, and that's the size of just slightly larger than the state of Georgia. The population is, we are pushing. I'm so happy because in the past I was saying we are, 500,000 inhabitants, but right now we are already pushing 600,000. Oh. So we are getting bigger. We're getting
population
bigger.
explosion.
We're getting there.
There you go.
Yeah, the country is also the most forested country in the world.
Oh, is it?
Between 90 and 94% of the country is covered by forest, of which at least 80 to 85% by pristine, untouched rainforest. It is important to say that because that makes us very unique. That's very special to indicate that the country is the most forested country in the world. Period.
Now, in the opening, I mentioned that Suriname is one of the 193 countries of the United Nations General Assembly. You're a smaller country, obviously, not as large as China or India or the United States.
Or
the United States, right. But still, you're an equal player in the UN General Assembly. You're also a former vice president of the United Nations General Assembly. What role do you see as the ambassador? You've been here about 10 years now, I believe. What role do you see, and we'll get into the issues in a minute, but Suriname playing as a co-equal member of the General Assembly?
Look, as you said, the United Nations is the only organization, in fact, with 193 member states. So every independent country is a member of the United Nations. For small countries, we certainly as Suriname, we view the United Nations as a big organization. However, we feel more comfortable to do our business or to put our interest, to push our interest in the comfortable setting of other regional organizations. So we are a member of the CARICOM. In the CARICOM, we are bringing our issues strong forward. We meet regularly in the CARICOM caucus of ambassadors and then discuss certain particular and important UN issues. So we speak more, we don't try to speak directly, even though we are active in certain committees and we are focusing strongly on what's happening in the second and in the third committee. That is our little niche. I'm a human rights lawyer myself, so that's the reason why I was, the main reason why I was the chairman of the third committee. But we are more comfortable to, to do our business or to, push our issues within the confinement of the smaller regional groups. Suriname is really active in the CARICOM group. We are a member of GRULAC as well. So within GRULAC, we try to make our points as well. But since GRULAC is not focusing on particular UN issues, that is a little bit difficult, little bit more difficult to do. We are also in the G77. We are a member of NAM. So we try to be very active in the regional organizations.
So you mentioned CARICOM, the Caribbean Community. I guess that's the acronym for that, or
Exactly, the Caribbean
right,
communities.
Caribbean Community. And of course, that would be like the Dominican Republic, could be Trinidad, Tobago, the countries in the Caribbean, the Lesser and Greater Antilles. But anyway, you mentioned GRULAC. That's the Latin American and Caribbean communities. So that would include all of South and Central America, plus the Caribbean communities. So those are the regional organizations that you're very involved in. If let's shift over though to some of the issues now. In the opening too, we were talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and these are 17 logical, practical, measurable goals to help eliminate poverty, to eliminate hunger, to empower women, to provide quality education. What was the driving force behind setting up these goals by the United Nations General Assembly, which adopted them in September of 2015, I believe? What is really the mission there, the goal with these 17 goals?
You know, we need to go back to the Millennium Development Goals. Those were goals set by the United Nations in 2000, and that was a development plan, 15-year development plan from 2000 to 2015, where the UN focused on, the main focus was to bring poverty, international poverty, to bring it back with 50%. And I can tell you that that goal has been reached by the UN community, by the member states of the UN. If I'm not mistaken, I think 72 developing countries reached that goal, and that goal was, bringing poverty all over the world, all over the globe, bring it back with 50%. And now, after those 15 years, we didn't celebrate very long because, it was something to celebrate. There were countries, big countries that made very good numbers. China and Brazil were in the lead of the big countries that, were able to tackle poverty very seriously. And then we got the Sustainable Development Goals. That goal, the main goal, is to eliminate extreme poverty completely. And as you might say, many people might think, this is a very ambitious goal. But if you ask me, it is doable. We were able to fix the Millennium Development Goals, satisfactory of many of the UN community, and at least 72 countries made it. And now we had a more ambitious goal, and that is to eradicate poverty completely. And the UN came with a set of 17 goals with, I think, 169 targets. So it is a comprehensive plan set by the UN community to eradicate poverty. And of course, there are 17 goals, poverty alleviation, education. We have to work on health, gender equality. There are so many targets. There are 17 targets. And in fact, the main goal is to eradicate poverty. Second, the focus should be to protect our planet and to make sure that everyone, you and me, and as I usually say, those people who are working right now in front of the building on First Avenue, that they can strive, that they can live in an environment where they all can prosper. So those are the three main focus areas of the Sustainable Development Goals. And as I said before, I believe that it is doable. If we focus, if we are able to work together, if we are able to focus strongly on public-private partnership, that means that the government sector, civil society, and the business community, if we can get them all working in one big concert, then we're going to be able to reach that main target, that main goal in 13 years from now.
Well, it's certainly a group effort, no doubt about that. Let's talk about some of those goals specifically, and maybe some specific examples of what's being done. You mentioned number 1, poverty, elimination of poverty. Goal number 8 is job creation, or quality jobs, something like that. We'll talk about them, maybe combine them together. What types of programs or projects are underway have you seen at the UN or within Suriname too, in your country, that you're doing to focus on these to try to accomplish them?
Yeah. As I said before, these are 17 goals, and it is a comprehensive set of goals. So you're going to have to work not particularly on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but you're going to have to take them all together. However, I believe that it is important to focus on a few particular goals, because those goals are so connected with almost all the others. When you talk to me, I will start immediately with goal number 5, gender equality, empowerment of women and girls. Why? We are talking about 50% of the world community that has specific challenges. Violence against women is the biggest human rights violation on earth. 7 in 10 women will be confronted with violence in their life. And I'm not going to tire you with all the studies and all the numbers, but the overall situation of half of the world community, who we know as women, they are living and trying to survive under horrible conditions. And in certain areas, some countries are doing a better job, or some regions are doing a better job, but overall, as I said, 7 in 10 women. That number is enough to understand how serious it is. So I believe that goal number 5 is a goal that we all should focus on strongly, because if we can realize that goal, or if we can be satisfied with what we are doing with that goal, then at least 50% of the population, of the world population, will be in a better situation. Another goal which I think is important is goal number 4, because all what has to do with development needs to be linked to education. When I'm talking to my friends, I always tell them that I don't know any population or region where any country or region where the population is very well educated, and that country or that region is a poor region or a poor country. This is impossible. You know, development goes with education. So I believe that countries should focus strongly on the educational sector and the educational goals. Everything has to do with education. Another important goal is goal 17. Many people don't look at it like very important. I see it as a crucial goal, since goal 17, that is the goal that has to do with partnerships. We're going to have to find a way for good partnerships between governments, the civil society sector, and the business community. We're going to have to find these 3 should work strongly together in order to, to get there. Is there another goal that I think is very important? Yeah, goal 8. Goal 8 has to do with job creation, but not just job creation, quality job creation. And that's the reason why I've been focusing so strongly on tourism, but I think we'll talk about it later as well.
Well, you're watching Global Connections Television, which is a privately funded, independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guests. We would invite our viewers to go to our website at www.globalconnectionstelevision.com to view previous programs. Also, if you are involved with any type of PBS or community access television station, or perhaps an educational institution that has an intra-campus television hookup, or you just have a website and you'd like to share our programs, please feel free to do so. Global Connections Television is provided free of charge as a public service to help people better understand how we're involved in international issues and how these issues affect our lives. Today we're taking a look at the country of Suriname and the role that it plays at the United Nations and some of the Sustainable Development Goals that are of great importance to this particular country. And my guest today is an expert on this. My guest is His Excellency Henry MacDonald, who is the permanent representative of Suriname to the United Nations. Your Excellency, we're talking about some very important goals. You've identified them. Let's just pick one out at random. Let's talk about job creation, quality job creation, and kind of couch that in with climate change and the environment. You were talking about sustainable tourism. Tourism, I would imagine, is very important for Suriname, is it not? Many countries, one of the top 3 or 4 industries is tourism in so many countries. Not yet, but moving in that direction, perhaps.
But as you said, no, I said in the beginning that Suriname is the most forested country in the world. And of course, our neighbors are also in that group. You know, French Guiana, our neighbor to the east, is also covered with 94% forest. And our neighbor to the west, Guyana, has 85 or between 85 and 90% forest cover as well. So that region, the size of the state of California, can be looked at as the most forested region in the world. We are part of the Guyana Shield. The Guyana Shield is the oldest rock formation on Earth with a lot of forest. I think, the 3 countries are the most forested. There have been some challenges in other countries like Brazil with regard to forest, to keep the forest, but still, Brazil is, the Amazon rainforest is still, everybody knows it is the biggest land mass with forest in the world. So the Guyana Shield is an area of South America consisted of these 3 small guys, Suriname, French Guiana, and Guyana, Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela. So right now, I'm together with a few friends and certainly the ambassador of Guyana, we have been working on a plan to promote that region as a tourism destination. This year is the year for sustainable tourism development. There are a lot of activities are being organized all over the world. I know that in 2 weeks we will have the General Assembly of the World Tourism Organization in China. Then I think in October or November there's going to be a big tourism meeting, regional meeting, certainly regional meeting in Jamaica as well. But why do certainly countries like mine focusing now strongly on tourism development? Tourism development is, the tourism industry is an industry where you can create quickly, high quality, and very good paid jobs. You know, job creation is one of the major things to eradicate poverty. Well, now within the tourism sector, within a short period of time, you can train people to be guides, tourist guides. You can train them to work in the hotel industry. You can train them to work in the transportation industry. You can train them to work even in the security industry, the medical industry. So this is all comprehensive. So that's why I believe that developing a good tourism industry in developing countries is something that many governments should look at. And as I said, not yet, because even though we are in the Caribbean, I know that many of my friends who have not been in Suriname, they always refer to Suriname as a country with beautiful beaches. And then I need to first of all disappoint them, to tell them that even though we have beaches, but the idea of sandy white beaches and blue oceans, that is when you pass Guyana a little bit, when you go to Trinidad, Barbados, that's where you will see it. And the reason why is that the Amazon River, which is a big river with a lot of mud, the biggest river in the world, is, dumps all of that mud on the coast of French Guyana, and Suriname. So, but in that muddy water, we also have a lot of fish and shrimp. So we have a very good fish and shrimp industry as well.
But a positive side.
No beaches.
No beaches.
No
Very
beaches.
good. Well, in the last 2 minutes or so that we have left, the hardest question, climate change in the minds and the scientific data of the vast majority of scientists is the number one problem we're dealing with. How has Suriname been adversely affected by climate change? Have you seen it has been very noticeable in your country?
Yes, of course. First of all, I need to say that climate change exists. You can see it certainly with your own eyes in Suriname. And before the interview, we were talking about the region, and I told you that I went to Guyana, and in Guyana, the capital, Georgetown, is at the ocean. It's at the Atlantic Ocean. And at night, during high tide, I saw it with my own eyes. You can see the ocean water sweeping over the dike. And this dike was extended with 2 feet. So just imagine that, how it was before the extension. Suriname, as I told you, the population is, for the 80% of the population live at the coast. The coastal area is the area where everything happens. The industries, the infrastructure, that's where we live. So that's a strip of, let's say, 40 from the coast, 30 to 40 kilometers. That's where everything happens. Just imagine, and Suriname is a low-lying coastal state. So at one point, we're going to have to build a dike, at the entire coast from French Guyana to Guyana. And that is, of course, something that we don't have the financing to do right now. So it is important to focus strongly on climate change and certainly sea level rise, because sea level rise, that will force us in first instance maybe to move everything more to the interior, more inland. But just imagine, I cannot think about a strategy where we will move the entire, everything that is important of the country is at the coastline, move it landinwards. I don't think
it would be very
that is
difficult
doable.
to do that.
That is
Yes.
doable.
Well, in the last 30 seconds we have another hard question for you. The UN is involved in a lot of major activities, a lot of programs up here. You had a major conference on the ocean. They got very little coverage in the United States. Hopefully it got better coverage overseas. What can the media do to focus upon these issues that the UN is dealing with that are life and death issues and to help the public better understand them?
I believe that with we I mean the member states, as well as the Secretariat of the UN, as well as maybe the business community, need to think hard about how to bring what I call the good news in the world. And the Sustainable Development Goals is definitely, I don't see anything that can be better than that news. How with these 17 goals, how to bring it to people, but not just people in countries, but everybody. How to make it accessible to, as I said, those guys who are walking now at First Avenue, or in a village in Paramaribo, in Suriname, or somewhere else. How will we bring this good news to those people so that they know what is happening and so that they can help, so that they can exist, so that they know what their role is into this? I don't have a clear answer for this, but I think that that's something we're going to have to do, because the media is very important. What you are doing is one of the most important things to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. But how will we, I know that it will be widely accessible on the internet, but how will we bring it to people who doesn't have the internet? Or, and as I said before, there's an animal channel. There are National Geographic. If you are interested into medical things, there are channels for that. But there is no channel for the Sustainable Development Goals. We're going to have to work on that.
And thank you for putting in a plug for Global Connections Television. It was unsolicited, but that's exactly what you're talking about, what we need to do to get the information out to the public and to help them better understand these issues. But Your Excellency, Ambassador Henry MacDonald, I want to thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us today on Global Connections Television.